Hey guys, what's up? It's Dan, and we got some recent news about a fighting game that Arc System Works is developing with Bandai Namco, and that is a Dragon Ball fighting game. And I'm actually very excited for this, and that is because you have both Arc System Works, who developed Guilty Gear and BlazBlue, and is one of my favorite fighting game developers, working alongside with Bandai Namco, who has the Dragon Ball license, and they're working on making a Dragon Ball Z fighting game, which is a show. It was an anime that I grew up with. I grew up with Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z as a kid. I watched a lot of Dragon Ball. I love the series, and I'm very happy to see a fighting game actually come out of it. We haven't seen a Dragon Ball-esque fighting game, like a real fighter, for many, many years. The last time was on the PlayStation 2. It was a game that we covered called Super Dragon Ball Z, something like that. And it's great to see a fighting game come out of it. What's especially interesting is that it's a 3v3 like versus style, apparently, which, holy shit, that's crazy. Arc System Works is looking to take over, is looking to basically take over. Now they just got to make a fully 3D fighting game that competes with 3D fighters, and you know they'd be out for blood. So the thing that I want to kind of touch on in the video, and what the title is probably going to say, is something along the lines of "Don't get your hopes up." And what I mean by "don't get your hopes up" is don't expect a Dragon Ball game that has a giant roster of characters. This is being made in the Guilty Gear Exert style. It's using the same engine, it's using the same way that they make their models and all of that stuff. And if you know anything about how Guilty Gear and Arc System Works did their models, Junya Motomura, who is the guy who created basically how Exert looks, can explain it in the video that I'll link down below, and it's that these models take a very long time to make. They take like 4 months, 3 months, and that's from start till in the game. It's finished product. And that's why I'm saying don't expect a giant roster. We have a series like Dragon Ball, which has, you know, the Namekian saga, we have the Cell saga, the Buu saga, we have, you know, Super now. We have tons and tons of characters that we that they have to go through. And with if you compare it to Guilty Gear, which when Sign came out, it didn't have a lot of characters. It had like 17. It had Sin, Elfelt, and Leo were DLC, and it had 15 characters along with that, or 14, so it had 17 characters. You compare that to Accent Core Plus, which had like 38, something, it was in the upper 30s. What I'm trying to say is that it's going to be probably the same situation with this game. It's coming out early next year, and we're going to have probably a small roster. I'm going to wager and say that it's going to be about 18, between 16 to 18 characters. And that's, don't get your hopes up for like this massive roster that we've seen in the past. We've seen like Budokai, the Budokai series, you know, first. We've seen a lot of those with big rosters. I don't think we're going to get like 30, 40 characters, Marvel, you know, MVC2 level rosters out of the box. Maybe a few years down the line we'll see like 25, 30 characters, because even for F2 we don't have all the characters yet. We're still missing quite a few. We only have like 26 characters, so it's going to be a while before it gets up to that point. This has been a trend for many of the new fighting games that have come out: Street Fighter V, King of Fighters, Tekken, Guilty Gear. A lot of people have been disappointed by either its lack of returning characters or the roster being too small. I've heard people say even like Tekken 7's roster is too small, which sounds absurd, but it's because people want returning characters. They want their favorite character. And with a game like this, because of the difficulty and time-consuming process of making Exert's models, which is their philosophy is killing everything 3D, making it look all 2D, you're not going to see like 3 versions of Gohan: kid, teen, adult Gohan, along with Bardock and, you know, Broly, and, you know, all the Ginyu Force, and like you're not going to see, you know, you're not going to see multiple versions of characters, and you aren't going to get the giant roster that you got in previous games. Now, I kind of hope that they go with the lines of like upgrading their, like powering up over time so that they can go to different levels. So you get like base Goku, and then he powers up over time, goes Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3, you know, Super Saiyan God, and Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, you know, all the levels. But I'll save that for after we get some gameplay, or after the E3 press conference where they show it off. The other thing I want to say is that, considering how we're getting gameplay already, or we might be getting gameplay they're announcing at E3, and the fact that we have screenshots in-game, there's 6 characters, I'm guessing that the game has probably been in development for a year and a half. As I said earlier, the characters themselves in Xrd took about 4 months, and after the game came out, they worked and cut it down to about 3. Since let's just say it's 3 months, maybe they cut it down more, maybe it's 2 months now, but if it's 3 with 6 characters, that's 18 months. It's been at least a year and a half, or at most a year and a half. So the reason why, and I'm just going to briefly touch on this, the reason why character models take so long to make is because, first off, their method of doing it is different. They use vertex normals and vertex colors along with base textures. They don't use like normal maps and all this crazy stuff. And again, I'm not a 3D modeler, so that's why I'm going to link the video down if you want to check it out. Even though I'm not a 3D modeler, it still mostly made sense. Visually, you can tell, it shows you. But because they use vertex normals for things like definition and defining lines and stuff instead of just drawing them on or using, you know, other like just different textures for it, they're all in the base textures so that they can control it through vertex normals, how big or how thick defining lines are for muscles and, you know, other various things. So they give them the definition that is needed for cell shading. The other, like cell shading their models. The other thing is the lighting. The lighting is also important because they don't use global lighting like Street Fighter. With Street Fighter, you can tell that it's going to have issues. You get jaggies all over the place. You get problems with the shader. With Guilty Gear, each character has their own shader, which means that, you know, it's 100% controllable. It has a threshold of when the pixel is lit or not. And you take all of that, and this is super condensed information. Again, the video will describe this a lot better. You take that, and then you do the other half, which is the next 2 months, which is the animation area. With typical 3D modeling, or like with typical 3D models like the animation, like Street Fighter V does, you would take the start of a move, the end of the move, and you have several keyframes in the middle that define kind of how the move is going to look, and between those keyframes it's interpolated, so it'll give you the full animation, but it looks very 3D. It's very fluid and it's very 3D. You can see that all over the place in Street Fighter V. Same with King of Fighters, Tekken. Basically every game that uses a 3D model does this. In Xrd style, they want it to look like it's an anime. They want it to be animated like anime, which is, instead of animating the full 60, they're animating probably like 15 frames out of it. And each one of those, because the character models have so many bones, which is usually about 500, they can manipulate everything on the model. So they can take it and animate each of those 15 frames by hand, and you get the look, the overall look of how the character moves and runs and everything. It's all done by hand. They have to mold and move the character model around to make it look the way it does in game. So every move is basically is essentially the same as hand drawing sprites like you would in BlazBlue, just with 3D software, just, you know, moving 3D models around. And that's the time-consuming process. We have a lot of stuff that, you know, characters do in the Dragon Ball universe. Lots of specials, lots of things that can be supers, lots of transformations, and all of that. You have to be able to do all of that in a 3D model that's done Xrd style. that's going to be a complicated process. It's going to be a very long process. So that's kind of why I think when it comes to this game, since it's coming out in early 2018, we're not going to see a ton of characters. We're going to see probably 18. And if they did shorten it and we end up getting like 25, 30, fantastic. I was wrong. They super refined that method then. But the whole point of the video is do try and keep your expectations low. Like, get hyped for it. I'm hyped for it. I really want to play this game. Just keep it, just don't expect, just be like, okay, on the roster, I'm probably not going to get every character that I like in the series. You're probably going to get the important characters. You're not going to get the important characters in 18 different versions of them. That's not going to happen. So that way, when you do end up maybe getting more characters, you will be excited for it. But that's kind of just what I wanted to say. I'll leave whatever impressions I have for gameplay when we get some gameplay or whatever shows up at E3. But for right now, I'm super excited to see the game. Right, I'm super excited to hear that this is being made. The last time we got a fighting game was Arc System Works actually developed it, which was that pixel art game, that sprite-based Dragon Ball game on like the 3DS. Didn't play it, but it looks phenomenal. I've seen it. But anyway, I'm gonna end this video on a not serious note and make a very clickbait thumbnail, which on the floor I actually have the thing that I can use to do it. Please just note, I didn't actually pay money for this. I found it. Don't ask where I found it. I just did. And you can feel free to unsubscribe to me after this video if this is what I have. All right, yeah. This is the ultimate clickbait, and you can unsubscribe to me after this. You know, I basically flushed any integrity down the toilet that I had down the toilet. I mean, this thing is over 10 minutes, 10-minute ad revenue. Am I right? All right, let's get that that thumbnail. Let's get that thumbnail ready to go. I think that's good enough, you know. Just maybe just like. I think that's well and good enough. So feel free to smash that unsubscribe button and never watch one of my videos again, because you know I'm a sellout.